oh my gosh, maybe it was actually my own company, because I've read stories of the companies also spying on their employees.
Did you hear
And
that?
then a less
Spying on their
likely but
employees.
plausible
This
scenario,
is only on
maybe I
KQED.
have been surveilled by a Russian
That
state,
is.
because I have been a fairly vocal critic of the inhumane policies of the Russian government in my own humble ways.
To figure out who was behind the tracking, Gabe went back into the data where he noticed something unusual.
Which is that her phone number is being tracked at the same time as a bunch of Pakistani phone numbers.
Sophia recalled knowing only one person from Pakistan while she was living in Britain. He was an instructor her company had hired to help her get a driver's license.
He had to sometimes meet me and pick me up at my home, and we would have to drive all the way to the office together. So he already knew where I worked, he knew where I lived.
Sophia says the man regaled her with stories about his time in the army and about his connections to Pakistani intelligence agencies.
He was quite keen to stay in touch with me, and over time, he started to pursue me romantically.
Something about this guy felt off. Sophia definitely wasn't interested, so she broke off contact. But for months, the man kept calling and texting. Years later, after speaking with Lighthouse reports, Sophia learned something important. The man wasn't just a driving instructor. He was also a sales manager for a private security company. It seemed somehow he got access to Altimedes and used it to track Sophia and several of his colleagues.
This software became a sort of plaything of some people who had access to it, and they used it to track people they were romantically pursuing or harassing. They used it to track their wives, they used it to track their kids, they used it to track the people their kids were dating.
It's really alarming and disturbing how easy it is to use this type of technology.
See, no one's
The
talking
unwanted
about that.
calls and texts eventually stopped. But since learning about the man who was secretly surveilling
Just
her,
like Chief
Sophia
Corey
says she's been
Morgan,
asking
Santa
herself
Clara
a lot of
County,
questions. How do you build
Cellbrite,
relationships with
Cellbrite,
people,
police use
and how do
Cellbrite.
you
What is
maintain them?
Cellbrite?
It makes me
Public didn't know
definitely
about flock safety. and now
rethink
the police
how
are.
to deal with people, you know, without turning into a paranoid or a bitter person. It sort of put my own perceptions of safety upside down. Like there is no privacy, there is no safe space where I can just be left alone.
When you think about it, it's kind of amazing that this massive data set that Gabe stumbled on would include a journalist covering corruption in the Vatican and just a regular person like Sophia. The Lighthouse Reports investigation continued, and Gabe says they figured out one way to make sense of the mobile numbers in the data set. Look for patterns or clusters.
We're talking about groups of numbers that are related to each other, so maybe every day these two numbers are being tracked within 1 minute of each other. Or they can be connected in terms of place. So these two numbers are being tracked in the same building, or they're being tracked, 100 feet away from each other.
That's how they came upon a trail of South African phone numbers.
And we can notice that they're all being tracked at the same time. This tracking is highly correlated. We start digging in further and we realize that these aren't South Africans. We see that they're actually Rwandans in exile living in South Africa.
Turns out some of the numbers were connected to an opposition movement called the Rwanda National Congress that was actively campaigning for a more democratic government.
The movement was gaining momentum when one of its leaders was found strangled in a hotel room in Johannesburg.
A former head of the Rwanda External Intelligence Service has been found murdered in a hotel in South Africa, the country where he has been living in exile for several years.
The man's name was Patrick Karegeya. He was a rebel fighter who became Rwanda's foreign intelligence chief after the genocide in 1994. He was a close ally of President Paul Kagame, but the two had a bitter falling out. As a result, Patrick was imprisoned and then went into exile. Here's Patrick talking about the dangers he and his comrades faced.
Some have died, some are in prison, others are in exile like us, and it will continue.
Even in exile, Patrick says he knew they were being targeted by the Rwandan government.
That's why my colleague got shot.